Welcome back to my channel. I am your favorite mama of three, Bougie Vintage, and today's video is Face the Facts. This video is going to be very sensitive in nature. If you have not watched the narcissistic abuse recovery video, please go and watch it and then come back here. This one is probably gonna be a little harder for me to talk about, but I'm trying to be as candid and open with my situation as possible. So I am sharing with you today a topic that not a lot of people touch on, which is how narcissists use sex in a relationship for power and control. So of course we can reference the power and control wheel because there is sex on there. On the outside of the power and control wheel, it says both sexual violence and physical violence. I'm not speaking to the violence of sex. I'm speaking to control and manipulation through the use of sex. I didn't ever think that I was personally ever going to be this candid when it came to talking about this situation in particular. But as I found myself in abuse recovery, I feel as though this is an important topic to touch on. Now, this is a topic that makes me feel probably really shameful, but there is no shame in abuse. So that is a part of the reason why I am speaking openly about this, because, well, it's a strange position to be in. I actually cried a lot about my situation when I realized after the fact what the hell was going on, because accepting it doesn't make it any more easy to process. It's still hard to process, and it making sense now doesn't necessarily make it any easier to process. So even though there's more understanding and I can put an explanation behind what I was experiencing because of therapy and because of research on the subject, it doesn't make it any easier for me. I don't really think that people understand the damage that it is to be in an abusive relationship with somebody that is a narcissist or somebody that has narcissistic tendencies. I don't think people realize the magnitude of damage that it does to the victims or survivors. Now, sex between you and your partner, or if you have multiple partners, whatever. Obviously, you know how it makes you feel, and I think everybody can agree. Everybody that likes to have sex can agree that sex is a great thing. I think on my channel, I've always been really open about sex. One of my highest viewed videos of all time is caught having sex at 16, and I think it has over 1 million views. And that's not the only video on my channel that is geared towards sex or talks about sex in that nature. Obviously, I'm a very sexual person, I'm a very sensual person, and that's never been a secret. Look at my Adam and Eve hauls. That wasn't just about the money. I like sex, okay? Because I have not one, not two, but 3 children, you would assume that someone like me is actively having sex, or was actively having sex during my marriage. And I probably even tried to push that narrative that I did have a lot of sex or was having a lot of sex, but that couldn't have been further from the truth. I cannot speak for every narcissist. I cannot speak for every woman or man that has dealt with narcissism. I can only speak to my own situation and my own experiences. Now, while I was in my situation, I did not realize that I was being controlled or manipulated in this fashion. But through therapy and research, it's been made very clear to me what was happening to me. And I learned that sex was one of the major plays a narcissist will use to control their supplies. Not only control their supply, but devalue their supply or their partner. So in the early stages of a romance, typically a narcissist will connect with you romantically. However, it's not a true connection. And the shock of it after the fact is obviously a lot to deal with, but you'll get over it. As we all know, in a healthy relationship, sex is normal you know? It bonds you and it makes you feel closer to your partner, whatever the case may be. It actually is one of those things that builds intimacy, it builds vulnerability, it builds a connectivity between you and whoever you're with, even if it's a one-night stand. The problem here is that when you are committing this act with somebody that is either a narcissist or has shown narcissistic tendencies, you're not experiencing a true, genuine connection. They will perform early on to make sure that you are feeling that connectivity and, you know, that craving them, that wanting them, and introduce you to what it is to be with them and enjoy them. Once they feel as though you are connected with them that way, this is when they start to manipulate and control by slowly pulling away, and sometimes not slowly, abruptly pulling away that connection that you have during sex or intimacy. The reason that this is done is because it makes them feel validated by knowing that you want them or you initiating something with them. It gives them validation. Whereas if you were just having sex regularly and normally, they wouldn't need to necessarily feel that, but that's not how their brain works. Because a narcissist always wants to be in control, it's important to them that whoever their partner is does not have the upper hand in the bedroom. Whoever their partner is doesn't have the upper hand at anything. So you as the victim or the survivor, whatever, you as the partner will go to your partner for sex and they will either oblige or deny you, which in turn obviously would end up playing on your self-esteem if you are rejected. If they decide to deprive you long enough, you may find yourself begging them for sex. And a lot of times if you're married, obviously this is the only person you can go to for sex without, you know, being a cheater. Like, unless you're in an open marriage, that's just what it is, right? And obviously your partner as a narcissist would know this. That was me. And your mouth is probably to the floor and you're like, what the frig? My mouth was to the floor too, girl, pick it up. In this horrible stage of devaluation by the narcissist is trying to make sure that you feel just as low self-esteem and insecure as they feel on a regular basis, but you would never know that on the outside looking in, that this person has these issues. You would never know that because they put up this false persona, this facade, essentially, that they have it all together, they're confident, they're wonderful, all these things, are the best, they're the greatest, all these things. That's how everybody on the outside looking in, but you as the person living with them, you see that that's not the truth or the reality of the situation. And so they begin to try to use sex as yet another thing to break you down. The withholding of sex is used to play on the partner's self-esteem. So obviously, if you initiate or you try to go for sex and your partner rejects you, you're going to feel rejected. You're going to start looking at yourself. After a while, you would start to look at yourself like, is something wrong with me? Am I ugly? Are you not interested? What's going on? Are you cheating? Are you this? Are you that? And I don't think anybody could be in a situation like that and not have it play on their self-esteem. Now, I remember one day in particular, I sent a picture in black lingerie. A very cute picture, nothing too crazy, but it's a cute picture. I sent a picture in black lingerie to my ex. Well, obviously during the marriage, you know. This is after having kids, whatever. I'm wearing a cute little black lace baby doll with a black thong. I look amazing, okay? I sent it to my ex. His response to that via text was, I'm sexier. I never sent another picture ever again. I said, whoa. I had never felt so crappy in my life. I never felt so insulted in my life. Imagine sending nudes, okay? I wasn't even nude. Imagine sending nudes to the man you're interested in, the girl you're interested in, whoever. You send a sexy picture, a cute picture, whatever, and the person messages you back, I'm sexier. They don't compliment you. They don't send heart emojis, nothing, eyes, nothing. They say, I'm sexier. Baby, I was tore up that day. I said, oh my God, I guess I'm not as cute as I thought. I literally was like, I guess I'm not as cute as I thought. What the freak? And I remember feeling so bad that day, so bad. And having no idea that, one, I'm with a narcissist and that this is something that is even done. I just thought he was just being an asshole. You know, I never really put any thought or emphasis on it. I just knew how I felt in that moment. And it carried. Of course, that's only one instance, you know, but sex was constantly being withheld from me to the point where I would be frustrated. And I felt like, why am I having sex more with myself when I'm married versus when I was not married and single and wanted to be with whoever I want to be with? Why am I having less sex now that I'm in a relationship? Why am I having sex with my Adam and Eve sponsorship toys versus with my partner? It didn't make any sense. This is dumb. I know nothing's wrong with me. So why is this the case? Initially, when this was happening, I thought there may be a pee addiction, you know, but that wasn't the case. I then also thought, well, maybe it's time to break up. Maybe he's playing for the other team. That wasn't the case either. And I verbalized that because I was like a little taken aback. It wasn't cheating. It was none of that stuff. And this was an ongoing issue, right? So this is before cheating scandals. This is happening. This is happening for years, okay? It was never a lot of sex there. As much as I felt like I was that girl, I wasn't feeling like I was that girl with my partner, which made no sense to me because even after I had kids, I knew I looked good. Even if I put on a couple extra pounds, baby, the face card was never declining, okay? It was never declining. So I couldn't make sense of it. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? But again, at the time, I had no idea that this was what was going on. So, like I said, this was happening before the cheating scandal, which was obviously just as humiliating and embarrassing as anything else that was going on. The cheating scandal devalued me further and obviously played with my self-esteem even more because I caught the scandal. You know, I caught it, but I couldn't understand why my ex had been texting this person or having an affair with this person. Explicit affair, explicit text messages. I couldn't understand how that was even possible when I don't know him to be extremely sexual. It threw me and it confused me. At that time, the cheating scandal happened, which this is probably news to you. That was in 2020, the beginning of 2020, right at the height of the pandemic starting. There had been issues from the year before. So from 2019, I started realizing things and like trying to get out of the marriage and had kept suggesting we break up, asking if we can break, like what is going on? Do you not want to be married? All these things, right? I'm bringing this forth to my ex and my ex is telling me, no. But then the cheating scandal happens. So that confused me. So after the cheating scandal happens, my ex tells me that because I keep suggesting that he does not want to be there as a father, as a husband, he felt pushed away and disconnected from me, but never came to me and talked about it. And so obviously I'm trying to have these conversations prior to the cheating scandal happening and they're just not happening and I'm confused. And so when the cheating scandal happens, at that point, I finally got discussion, which again made absolutely no sense. So when the cheating scandal happened, that was happening because my ex was looking for a new supply because typically in narcissist fashion, what they do is find a new supply if they feel like their old supply is about to jump ship, which I clearly was jumping ship. And their usual tactic is to latch onto somebody else before they fully move out of the situation that they're currently in. If the narcissistic person feels like you're discarding them, which is how he essentially felt, that I was discarding him, getting rid of him, telling him, you know, you can go because he was treating me so badly and I didn't understand why, they're going to do something drastic to devalue you further. That was pretty much what was going on at that time. And once I saw those text messages, I was like, I was in shock. I was in complete and utter shock. Because I think despite everything that was going on in my marriage, I never, ever, ever pictured or thought that my ex would go as far as cheating on me. You know, I never thought that that was a thing. But I also never knew that I was in a narcissistic abusive relationship. Now, once the cheating scandal happened, I obviously had it blow up in smoke. So then I was stupidly roped, or in the narcissist world, they call it hoovered. I was sucked back in. And of course, things turned out worse. And so I know, obviously, a lot of people, when they look at women like me, or other women even, in these situations, everybody's always asking, well, why did you say? Why did you say? As if it's not super duper complicated. I know it sounds like 1 + 1 is equaling 2, but I promise it wasn't. I promise 1 + 1 was not equaling 2. And the truth was, I had tried so many times to leave prior to that incident happening. And even after that incident happened, I think once I talked about it a little bit on my channel, I always stated like it was an isolated incident. It was an isolated incident. It wasn't isolated. It wasn't. And that was because I felt like now I had to further fawn and further protect the image of my ex whose feelings were hurt, which was stupid. Because what about my damn feelings, you know? I didn't know I was with a narcissist. I didn't know the many different ways I was being manipulated. Like, who the hell uses sex to manipulate people? That's crazy. But narcissistic abuse changes your brain, just like any other kind of abuse. It changes your brain and how your brain works and functions. And while you're in it, you're doing a whole lot of coping, okay? And so if you are a member and you've been following me and you've been hearing my journal entries, you hear how I was coping. The reason that I was able to fill so many journals during a certain period of my marriage was because I had shut down completely and was not able to communicate with my partner. So I communicated with God via my journal and communicate with myself. And I'm glad I did it at the time that I did it, because now that I've left the situation and I'm reading my stuff back, I can see that I wasn't crazy. I can see and feel and understand better myself in those moments. And it's so important to journal and keep those things documented, because when you're able to look back and be like, well, damn, I really wasn't a nut job. I really wasn't the psychopath that he was calling me. I really wasn't crazy. He was making crazy, but I wasn't crazy. And it allows you and helps you to heal, because the whole time you're in a situation like this, you're looked at under a microscope and you are told that you're the crazy one and you are gaslit the whole time. Until you're out of it. And hindsight's always wet, 2020. Now, because the narcissist is requiring constant validation, which is complicated even in itself, because the validation you give your narcissist never sticks. Whatever cup they have has a million holes in the bottom, so you're pouring in and it's falling out the bottom. And then you're pouring in and it's falling out the bottom. Before you know it, you done poured out your whole supply, and you got nothing left. It makes them feel good to know that they are wanted. And it doesn't even matter by who. It just lets them feel good to know that they are wanted. And so back to sex, there would be months and months that I was deprived. And towards the beginning of the end of the relationship, I actually had gone to Chucky and asked Chucky if I was allowed to have a boyfriend, because I needed to have sex and I was tired of being rejected and denied. And that obviously was offensive. Who goes to their husband and asks their husband if they can have a boyfriend? And I don't know if I asked because I was trying to prove a point, but I was dead ass serious. I was ready to find whoever to meet up with regularly so that I wasn't yearning and dying and didn't have to go and ask for sex I have to ask for everything. I have to ask for money. I have to ask for my car. I have to ask for sex too. I can't ask for everything now. This is a little much now. Child, I can't do it. So I dead ass went to him and he was offended. But I needed him to understand this back is needing a blowing out. It's needing a blowing out. And I need it done regularly. I'm gonna need at least 2 times a damn week. Okay? We got kids, so you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week might not be realistic, but at least 2. I did not want an open marriage. I also did not want, obviously, my ex to think that because I have a boyfriend, he can have a girlfriend. It was never gonna go down like that. That's not what my thought process was. I wasn't trying to be in an open marriage. But my feelings were, if your libido is that low, which it wasn't low, the libido wasn't low, but I thought it was. But if your libido is that low, that I'm going months and months and months without having any kind of affection, I'm going to need to get it elsewhere. Because these toys can only vibrate for so long. It's not giving that. Like, I need actual stimuli. So we got to get it. We got to figure something out, sir. That's all I'm saying, okay? Don't shoot the messenger. That's all I'm saying. Okay. I was actually just exhausted and tired of being in a sexless marriage. I didn't think it was normal or right, and I was confused by it. So I became a desperate housewife. I was desperate for some D. I didn't want it to be here, damn. I didn't want that feeling, you know. I didn't want the wham bam thank you ma'am situation, because since sex was used as a control tactic, I was constantly, when I did get it, sometimes finding myself on cloud damn 9, okay, and feeling a closeness that is a false closeness, but feeling a closeness to my partner that was really a mirage. Sometimes when you're having sex with a narcissistic person or a narcissist, you feel like, they do love me. He does love me. She does love me. That's how you feel. That's how you're made to feel. And they may even express that to you because that's a love bomb. And unfortunately, love bombing is not love. It's another mirage, which in the end sucks. Okay, these are all things that suck to realize. Like, you just feel used and abused. Okay, like there's no sugarcoating it. There's no sugarcoating it. This is just what it is. And you just have to take it on the chin. It's a L. Okay? It gets to a point where you take what you can get. Okay? Especially if you're not a cheater. Like, I could have cheated. I could have done, but that's just not my body. That's just not who I am. So I didn't. But I was actually being deprived of love and affection and physical connectivity. And it hurt. Especially because when you're in this position and sex is being withheld from you, you are gaslit. And I was personally told that they don't want to do it once, because if they do it once, then I'm just going to want it every day of the week. This is after being deprived for months. Of course I'm gonna want it every damn day of the week. I've been deprived. Like, what? So in some cases, this wasn't my situation, but in some cases they may call you an addict, all kinds of foolishness. And you're just like, am I the drama? No, you're not. So you're in a long-term relationship with somebody. They are using sex as a weapon. It's funny because they say women do this. Use sex as a weapon or a tool. Baby, anybody can do it. But when you're in a relationship with somebody and you actually love them and they're using sex to control and manipulate, the amount of damage this does to your self-esteem is beyond me, okay? It's actually sad, like very sad. So, of course, there were times afterwards I would feel great, but there were other times where I felt disgusting or gross. And I could never understand it while it was going on, why I'm leaving my personal bedroom with my spouse feeling like a cheap whore. I think it's because it got to the point where I felt like I had to turn off my emotions to engage in sex. I had to just look at it as sex because I was feeling like it was not mutual. Like, whatever feelings I feel, the euphoria, whatever, it's not mutual. It's just sex. And so I started to just regard it as just sex. And just showing up for my D appointment and packing up and leaving. I spent a night bag at my own house. At my own house, okay? And this is going on to the very last minute of the relationship. I think the most ironic thing is that the signs were always there. The power play, where sex was concerned, was showing up very early on. From probably 2013, it was there. That's the year that we were kicked out of my mom's house because he was never supposed to be there. But once we moved into our own home, that's kind of when it started. And only because I look back and, there would always be these little arguments about that thing in particular, to the point where I actually just adjusted my libido, thinking that, that's just, it was just a sacrifice that I made, which I don't really understand why or know why. I think I just felt like I was in love, and I'm not going to force my significant other to have sex if they don't want to have sex. I never took it initially as rejection. Only after a certain point did it start to feel that way. That I was rejected, but I would raise my issue about it. I would get hushed and, pet back and chilled out, and things would be fine. I think the turning point for me, when I really started to find or take issue with it, was once I started my spiritual journey. And I was reading my Bible, and my Bible was telling me I should have been laid up every 5 minutes with my man. I said, oh, well, if that's the case, maybe that's why he cheated, because I wasn't putting out enough. But that was never the case, because there was always the access there. But I'm so damn confused. I don't know my head from my ass. I don't know left from right. None of these things. As we dissect this further, I'm sure this will come up again, because there's so many disruptors and tactics that get used to evade the sex or really ensure that the sexual control prevails. Now, as painful as the situation is, and maybe embarrassing, and what seems to be shameful, it has also been extremely eye-opening for me. If I were a therapist and simply sharing what my experience has been as a therapist and dealing with these types of situations, maybe I wouldn't feel so naked right now, because obviously this is very vulnerable. But I'm trying to live in my truth as much as possible, and I don't think that I should feel any shame where this is concerned. Sometimes your truth is not going to be all sunshine and rainbows, and mine is not. Now, I think since I started sharing this side of my life, the feedback has been pretty consistent, with you all sharing your stuff with me as well, and letting me know that I'm helping you see clearly what's been going on in your own relationships, and yada, 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 and giving you courage and hope and all these things. And so that is obviously a big part of why I continue to share, despite me having any kind of fears about sharing. I really never, ever, ever knew what demon, what Jezebel I was up against when I was living in this. And I never knew how deep the situation really went after leaving. And so I think one of the hardest parts for me has been, after leaving, the realization that I don't believe any of it was real. It's been such a hard pill to swallow, because of course after that situation I am left to pick up the pieces for not just myself, but for obviously for my kids. It's been extremely tough. I really at this point have a lot of trouble believing that my ex ever loved me. I don't necessarily know or believe that he knows what that is. And maybe that's not his fault, but I just hate that so many people's lives were affected by this situation in particular. I think coming to terms with the fact that I was just ever a supply for someone, it's a harsh reality, but it is what it is. I think because I was a supply and I put up with so much as the first and most important supply, because through me, my ex was able to produce 3 more supplies. It's scary for me to think about, but the facts are, I think a lot of the stuff happened after the children were born, because I was easily, I feel like I was easily going to be discarded. I was no longer needed because I did everything possible that there was to do for this person. So why would the narcissist need a supply anymore if the supply produced 3 other supplies to feed off of? Do you know what I mean? I'm garbage now. And I don't say that out of nowhere. This is not something I've shared on here before, but my ex used to make this joke, and he's said it on more than one occasion, where he's referred to me as just a vessel. I never found it funny when he said it the first, second, third, fourth time. I never found it funny. But he would often call me just a vessel. I think my spirit knew that he wasn't joking with me, though he would be obviously laughing or trying to put it in a very gentle tone. But it was something that was said, again, to devalue, degrade, minimize me as a person, a human, a woman, a mother, and looking back, that's probably one of the only things that my ex was honest with me about, was that I was just a vessel. If you are confused by what that meant, was pretty much that I was just used to bring forth children, a vessel. And looking back and knowing what I know now and what I was dealing with, and obviously still kind of have to deal with, it sucks. And I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I wouldn't. Narcissistic abuse is not fun and games. You rack your brain forever trying to figure out, like, how did I let this happen? And the fact is, you didn't let anything happen. Something is happening to you, not because of you, right? So these are all things that I know and I'm fully aware of. And so though things like this were said to me and I was treated like crap and I accepted a lot of it, as much as tactics were used to try to hurt me, they did not work. I never lost fully who I was. That's how I'm able to walk away. I never lost my self-esteem. That's how I was able to shave my head. I was bruised, but I was never broken. And my self-esteem and my self-worth and how I feel about me will never, ever be dragged down to hell by anyone, especially not a man. Okay? So as much as I was craving sex and being deprived of that, the truth of the matter was God was standing tall in me. I never needed the D, never needed it. And that's how I walked away with my head held high and God on my side. So this was another episode of Face the Fact. If you want to share your story with me, you can email me at facingthefacts@gmail.com. And I really hope that this was enlightening for you. I hope that if you realize you're in a situation like this, you can rise up and take the power back and take control and confront it by walking away. Because I felt like I done gave up a lot now. I can't give up having sex too. This is too much. So yeah, I love you all so much. Thank you for allowing me to be vulnerable with you and not judging me too harshly. Not too much on me now, okay? Not too much on me. But yeah, I'm praying for you all. Pray for me too. I love you all, and I will definitely see you in the next one.